get into some good reading. Alrighty. I hope everyone is absolutely ready. Oh, you're gonna be falling asleep? Oh, I don't want to put you to sleep. I mean, I kind of do. I know a lot of people like being read to sleep, so that's partly this idea is for you to like fall asleep to or just vibe with, have a nice book in the background. Okay. I hope everyone enjoys this story just as much as I enjoy this story. Let us take a quick toke before we start reading, and I will say, please keep an open mind. It may have a slow start, but I love this book quite a lot. I'm so sorry for those of you who did have ads. And now we will have our break. And we'll try to take breaks with the ads as well as any bathroom breaks I need in the middle. Chapter 1. Princess Jatta woke on the cold marble floor, groaning weakly. Soaked in sweat, the nightmare was fading, but the horrors of it lingered. Her brother was mauled. Instinctively she knew it, just as she knew the nightmare had been real. It had now gone, retreated deep below the Can I help you? Well, sorry, the screamer's gonna also narrate. It had gone, retreated deep below the throbbing in her head. Art, I'm sorry, she whispered, knowing she was to blame, but remembering nothing. A face peered down at her. She strained her neck to see. Her father. Soft cloth brushed her face, mopping her forehead, sweat from her lip. She tried to move, but couldn't. Tears pooled in her eyes, or in his eyes. You've come back, my precious girl. You've come back. She blinked up at him, understanding nothing. He never cried. Not that she knew. She felt one tear spatter on the marble tiles beside her face, wanting to stop watching, wanting it to stop. Watching his chin instead. 2, 3, 4 tears for Arthmail. They fed her fear. Art's dead, she moaned. Arthmail's alive. No, it's my fault. He wiped his eyes, then searched her face. What do you remember, Jay? She opened her mouth, but there were no words to explain, only confusion. A vein in her temple throbbed. She let her face roll back onto the tiles and shut her eyes. To recall. Also, give me a second. Let me see if this helps. A vein in her temple throbbed. She let her face roll back on the tiles and shut her eyes to recall. Marble, cold against her cheek. Nothing. Nightgown wet with sweat. Nothing. Body shivering on the tiles. Nothing. She opened her eyes, trying to focus. Chains clanked as she tried to move. The bedchamber tiles were smeared with bloody paw prints. They glistened in the dawn light. Blood. More than a repugnant smell than just a memory. Blood? Yes, Arthmail's. He survived, Jay. No. She desperately held onto his words. What happened? Wolves. Wolves. Her first memory. Her mortal fear. These dark magic monsters that had killed her mother. She groaned. They came back for me. Yes, Jay. But they got Art instead. He heard you scream. Let me see him. She tried to sit up. Iron clanked. She lifted her head to see her wrists and ankles loosely wrapped in chains. What? Tell me, what have I done? Her father busied himself unraveling them. You had a fit. You thrashed about. I ordered the chains to stop you from harming yourself. A fit? Nothing was making sense. She sat up, rubbing her cramped, bruised legs, focusing on the room. The wall lamps lay smashed. They'd been flung around, weaving burning oil and scorched marks looked like ice skating trails across the white floor. Bedding lay strewn in burgundy-splattered tatters. More bloody paw prints danced around her wardrobe, which had been dragged across the room, all 10 doors of it, and lay on its side through the smashed glass. Half of it lay in the garden beyond. How could wolves have come, and she survived? Arthmail too? Such monsters were blood-crazed, indestructible. They weren't supposed to let me live, she whispered. Not if my amulet failed. They shall not destroy you. The king's voice was commanding, as he had always known it, and Jatta's pounding pulse slowed. Jay, we must renew your amulet's magic. This morning I'll send an ambassador to the sorcerer. Maybe this time. Shouldn't I go too? No! His eyes narrowed, suddenly severe. Never imagine you'll leave this palace. Jatta flinched. I'm sorry, my little Jay. He cupped her elfin, almost childlike face in his scarred hands. But you know Lord Red's magic protects you only within these palace walls. I've lost your dear mother. I won't lose you too. End of chapter 1. Chapter 2. The sun had barely risen, but most of the palace's servants were at work. As soon as her father left, Jatta slipped into a dressing gown and poked her head into the corridor. Guards had been posted outside the chambers next door. They stood to attention, shock flickering across their faces. As she hobbled painfully towards them, she knew it must look like a disturbing sight. Her baby fine ash hair, matted with blood, her feet bare, her ankles bruised. She limped past them into her brother's bedchambers, anxious about what she might find. Arthmail lay pale and still, his eyes closed. The quilt had been pulled down, exposing his heavy arms and powerful chest. Spots of blood stained their whiteness, while black threaded traces across his flesh, as if some mischievous child had scribbled all over him as he slept. Pharmacist Yeemans bent across him, rubbing healing ointment against the surgeon's black stitches. Though his touch was light, her brother groaned. He was alive. Jatta hadn't allowed herself to fully believe it till this moment. She tiptoed closer, not sure of what to say. She shyly stroked his hand, his eyes open. She leaned forward, braving a smile. He registered her slowly. Then his jaw hardened in aggravation. Go away, he said tensely. It felt like a slap. I was worried. I needed to see that you were all right. She bit on her lip, wincing. Of course he was not all right. How are you, Art? Wildly. How are you, Art? Guard for life, thanks to you. Then he grimaced, sharply drawing in a breath. Talking seemed to cause him pain. Jatta blushed with guilt. Pharmacist Yeemans spoke gently. Prince, please remember none of this is your sister's fault. But Arthmail's accusation, his rare anger too, confirmed that it was. Please, Art. I'm so sorry. He waited till the pharmacist's back was turned. Why in glory's name weren't you wearing the amulet? He growled under his breath. I never take it off. She pulled out a pearl string from around her neck, eager to prove herself. Cupping her hand so that only he might see, she showed the disk of a fiery opal set in gold. Then why? His face screwed up and he groaned through grit teeth. After some seconds in pain, seemed to ease. Well, it didn't work last night, did it? I'm sorry. Glory, Jay, what's to be done with you now? Father says we'll plead for a new amulet, that everything will be all right. Ambassador, Sartora and is in his treasury now, choosing a worthy gift. What is to be done tonight, though? Tonight? She echoed in confusion. Tonight, Jay. He closed his eyes wearily. It'll be back tonight. The blood drained from her face. She stared, looking almost as ill as her brother. The wolves? Tonight? Wolves? His eyes opened. He stared back as if it was as if she was being deliberately stupid. Then his expression softened. Yes. The wolves, Jay. How much do you actually remember? I remember sitting at my desk after supper, drawing. Then, waking up on the floor. Nothing else? Jatta shook her head. Father says you heard me scream. What happened? He sighed and closed his eyes. Tell me what happened, Art. The pharmacist returned. Highness, your brother is tired. All right. Rest now, she whispered. But Arthmael was already asleep. Chapter 3. The palace was prickling with rumors as Jatta limped back from Arthmael's bedchambers. Servants crowded the corridors to whisper. They fell silent and bowed while she passed. Sorry, I had to check to make sure my mic wasn't muted. I thought I did a dumb. She felt their stares on her back. She cringed and sighed, regretting her haste. Why hadn't she at least waited for her ladies in waiting to wash the blood from her hair? Her bedchambers were full of staff. Chambermaids hurried around finishing mopping the floors, while carpenters measured the splintered oak door for repairs. 24 guards were grunting as they righted the enormous wardrobe. Her lady stood huddled, whispering in a corner, waiting for the others to leave. They fed Jatta. They gasped when they undressed her. 4 parallel slashes marked her calf. They were merely a scratch, Jatta argued, insisting that the blood on her nightgown was Arthmael's. She persuaded them not to wake Surgeon Tate, although no amount of begging could prevent them from calling the pharmacist. Highness, it's only a scratch, Pharmacist Yeeman said, bleary-eyed as he swabbed the calf with alcohol. Anything else? Jatta shook her head. You won't tell Arthmael I bothered you for this? Her brother would only laugh. Yeeman stifled a yawn. We're lucky that foolish, brave prince is still with us. Now, take this potion after supper. It'll help you sleep tonight. She took his little blue bottle. Straight after your meal, Highness. No later. After he left, her ladies filled the bathtub and sprinkled it with rose petals. They were full of prying questions. She felt it through their thick silence. She herself was exhausted, overwhelmed by Arthmael's injuries and by guilt she couldn't explain. She sank down into the water's warmth and slept while her ladies lathered and massaged her scalp. She awoke hungry and shivering. Hammering had begun beyond the bathroom wall. Highness, will you rest now? Her ladies asked as they poured hot water into the cold. Shall we find you other bedchambers while the carpenters work? Jatta tried to rise out of the water, but her legs gave way. Her whole body ached as she stretched on the as she had been stretched on a Darthini Dardathan? Dardathan. Dardathan rack, I think. Oh, thank you so much for the follow, Marion. Welcome in, welcome in. Or Mario. Sorry, Mario. I see that that word's not. Welcome in, Mario. While her ladies eased her up, someone suggested resummoning Pharmacist Demon. Please, no. More than rest or food. More than the patently unnecessary sleeping potion. More than the patently unnecessary sleeping potion. Jatta wanted her friend. Is Sanda back yet? She asked. Sanda would make sense of this whole dreadful mess. She'd know what to do. Highness, Baron's Crewingburn's ship docked last night. His daughter should be at tapestry class. So she'd slept the morning away. Suffering a fit, whatever that meant, must be exhausting work. Genteel chatter stopped as Jatta hobbled into the tapestry room. Sanda glanced up, then grinned. A dozen well-bred chins turned to watch. Good, afternoon, murmured Jatta, blushing at the barrage of curious and compassionate stares. The nobleman's daughters and their instructors dipped their heads in defense. Jatta slipped into the chair beside Sanda. Slowly, the chatter returned as the needles again wove through the great tapestry, on which were traced scenes from the 12th sorcerer's life. Sanda leaned close as she worked, her gruff voice in Jatta's ear. So, what happened? Came by your chambers. What's that hideous siege-proof door for? Hey, you're white as a... Oh, sorry. Behind Sanda, Ambassador Sator's daughters and several of their friends strained to listen. Hey, you're white as a plucked chook, whispered Sanda. Jatta shook a deep, shaky breath. I'm all right, she whispered. The door's to keep the wolves out. Wolves? Lordy me! Her father's spice shipping wreath had brought Sanda's fine gowns, a title, and place in the court, where she in Adaban, but not courtly manners. Jatta usually smiled at Sanda's rough curses, but not today. Then, it's true. Is your brother all right? Jatta began to nod, then shook her head miserably. He looks awful. All slashed up. Not his face, though? Sanda had gone pale. She made it no secret that she thought Arthmail handsome. Half the girls in the room agreed. Jatta merely rolled her eyes. Hey, well, that's good. I mean, it's not good he's... Thinking about it. I overheard my parents this morning. There are rumors he's been attacked. Wolves from the forest, right? Jatta whispered in Sanda's ear. Not our wolves. Dark Isle wolves, Sanda gasped. What about your almighty secret amulet? Several faces turned towards them. Shh! Jatta groaned. Sanda thought, though, was horrified. She leaned in close, wide-eyed. The wolves? Do you figure they'll be back? You know, to kill you? Art says so. Tonight. Jatta's hand started trembling. Her needle dropped in her lap. Father tells me nothing. Find out, Dormouse. Make King Elisand tell you. Or ask Prince Stefan. Stefan would only pat my chin and say, trust to father and me. Sanda snorted in exasperation. What else did Prince Arthmail say? That there was only just one wolf. The father said there were more. I don't really know. So where were you in all this? I had a fit. One moment I was at my desk after supper, and the next I was lying on the tiles. And it looked like a massacre. The wolves attacked Art instead of me. Oh yeah, I already read that. Lordy me, that's disgusting. Aren't you petrified? Jatta stared back, feeling helpless, not knowing what to say. Nanda stopped any pretenses at needlework. She glared at Jatta with disbelief. How can you just sit on your behind and wait to be torn apart? Your family feeds you crumbs like a pet mouse in a sumptuous little cage. Why hasn't the king told you the wolves will be back? Why doesn't he already tell you anything? Why does Prince Arthmail know more about your fate than you do? Jatta wanted to tell her friend that everything was under control, that Lord Red would listen, that she only had to trust her father. But his face that morning, his tears, her body started to shiver. She felt weak and dizzy. The room swayed. Sonda rose, pulling Jatta firmly up by her waist. The princess isn't feeling well, she announced to the room. She'll rest now. Jatta struggled in her grip. No, it'll pass. Shh, growled Sonda in her ear, dragging her towards the door. We're going to get some answers. Chapter 4. Cheer up, Jatta. Just think how lucky we are to get the King Island's keys. Jatta scowled at her friend as she unlocked her father's study, knowing the deception, not luck, had gotten them inside his private chambers. They had gone straight from the tapestry room to the cabinet chambers. As she waited in the chamber's anteroom, Jatta had recovered enough to recognize her own name being spoken through the mahogany panel wall, and voices raised in argument. Her father had smiled wearily from his throne when she was summoned in. The cabinet, seated at their horseshoe-shaped table, had examined her suspiciously, almost as if she brought the plague. Father, I'm a little unwell, she stammered into his ear. Hasn't the pharmacist demons been called? There had been dark circles under his eyes from the night without sleep. No, Father, I just need to rest. Your chambers? They're crowded with workmen. Still? Of course. Then we shall find you fresh. Father, May I rest in Mother's chambers? Her father's kind eyes searched hers, and she'd blushed with fresh guilt. Of course, Jay. This has been an ordeal for you. I know. He had pressed the keys into her hands. Keys to his chambers, his private study, living rooms, and the rooms that had once been her mother's. It had been easy as that. She hesitated before leaving, fighting the impulse to confess her pretense. If he ever discovered what she'd done with his trust, she would lose more than the unquestioning rights to his keys. Rainbow-colored sunlight shone through the magnificent stained-glass windows in the king's study. Bookshelves stretched from floor to vaulted ceiling. The ancient texts in them rivaled the crown jewels for rarity. Smells musty, like old cloaks, said Sonda, settling straight into her search. A portrait of a young woman with two small children hung behind the king's desk. Jatta has studied it before, when visiting her father. Still, she felt drawn to it. Woman's uncannily like her, resembling his father only in his tall, powerful build. Oh, sorry. The woman's large, laughing eyes also blazed from Arthmail's face. He was uncannily like her, resembling his father only in his tall, powerful build. Jatta searched for some likeness to herself in this beautiful woman. The height, of course. She had inherited her mother's petite frame, though, if anything, Jatta was tinier. Even now, days before her 14th birthday, Jatta was still sometimes mistaken for a child. When this picture was painted, she had yet to be born. The boy holding her mother's hand, standing rigid in a regal pose under his miniature crown, was Stefan, Arthmail was the gorgeous large-eyed baby in her arms. Jatta searched her mother's face for something more, some connection, some warm recognition in those effervescent eyes. Nothing. Jatta dropped her gaze, her hot cheeks feeling suddenly foolish. Painting could no more tell her that he loved her than it could reach out and hold her. Holy... Oh, sorry. Hoy, little Dormouse, what are you gawping at? Sanda's arms were stacked with books. Stop your dreaming. We're here. We need his diary. Any Dark Isle stuff, too. Jatta slid down from the desk and fumbled with the keys. With a fresh wave of guilt, she opened the first drawer. It was filled with inks, blotting paper, candles, wax, and royal seals. Father's diary lay under a pile of parchment in the second drawer. In the third drawer, cradled in satin, was her mother's journal, filled with bedtime stories of her own exquisite illustrations. Jatta trailed her fingers through the apricot suede of its cover before opening the last drawer. Here were more diaries, stretching back long before she was born. Jatta chose one from the year she turned 3. I found something, she called softly. Come on over, so have I, answered Sanda from the armchair. By the window, bathed in the stained glass tinted sunlight, Jatta chose 2 diaries squeezed down beside her friend. What have you got? Sanda wriggled, settling more comfortably into the tight space. Father's diaries? Let's have them first. What's today's entry? Jatta's heart was beating fast. Ready? She asked. A slight tremor invaded her voice. Sanda gave her arm a gentle squeeze. 2nd of Lunasept, 3029. The night I believed that could be averted has arrived. Innocence has ended for our precious little Dre. Dear Rosalia, I can't bear to tell her the truth, nor of the cruel fate, worse than death, that threatens. My darling, has your sacrifice come for nothing? Lord Red's amulet has failed. Sator's will beg him for another, but last night has unnerved me. These past 11 years, the cabinet have kept our family's secret. They're frightened. They argue Lord Red will forsake the Sorcerer's Pact now and leave Altelia defenseless. They're already clamoring for Jay to be delivered to King Brackensith. They say he and his wolves and the undead. His wolves and the undead will destroy us if she stays. I couldn't bear it if the Dark King took her too. While I live, I will defend her against that wicked union. Rosalia, how long for you now? For your understanding, how I long for you now. Your understanding, your strength, your brilliant mind. I am adrift. Jatta closed the diary. She stared at its cover, almost wishing she hadn't opened it. Whatever her father's secret was, whatever cruel fate threatened, something else in that page scared her as much. Her father's sense of helplessness. He'd always been her rock, her sanctuary. She ached for that security. He speaks in riddles, Jatta. What is this ready, wicked union? I thought Brackensith wanted you dead, like your poor mother. Jatta shook her head miserably, tracing her fingers over the cover, gold embossing. Sanda wrapped an arm around Jatta's shoulder. Hey, don't fret. Your father will mend things, right? Lordy, he is the king. Her voice trailed away and she shrugged. Both girls knew Sanda had faith in no other except herself. Anyway, princess, you've got me for what it's worth. Jatta looked at Sanda's warm eyes, and a grateful smile spread across her face. Sanda grinned. That's better. Look, I found something about Dartith. Dartith. That's the Dark Isle, right? Jatta nodded. Sanda chose a heavy volume, not ancient like the others, from a stack at her feet and squeezed back down. The page fell open to a macabre picture. In it, one man was biting into the neck of another, and they stood on a moon cliff. Blood sputtered from the wound. Jatta pulled back in disgust. The caption was handwritten in an ornate script, and Sanda read it with difficulty. Our undead feed on our living. They roam through Dartith's extended nights. For long ago, Andro Morgan's magic reduced our days to 6 short hours. Disgusting, right? Sanda started leafing through the pages, but it's not what I wanted to show you. Wait a moment. Jatta slid her finger into mark the undead page. I've never heard of magic changing his days to night. Andrew Morgan must have been incredibly powerful. The book slammed shut on her finger. Ouch! What was that for? But Sanda had frozen, her eyes on the study door. A chink of light from the door corridor had fallen across the floor. The girls watched as the door creaked open and a black muzzle poked through. Jatta breathed again. It's only father's dog. The Great Dane paused halfway through the door, watching them. His nose twitched. Then he growled, a low, threatening. What's wrong, boy? Come here, Rufford, coaxed Jatta. The Great Dane's hair bristled. She struggled up from her chair with reassuring words, but her movement only aggravated him. He bared his teeth, snarling, inching towards them. What is it, Rufford? Jatta peered nervously around for danger, but the animal was snarling at her. Suddenly, he snapped into frenzied barking. Lordy, Sanda jumped. He'll bring the guards. Rudford was momentarily distracted. Sanda dived for his collar, wrestling him out of the study as he snapped viciously at Jatta. From outside the king's chambers came a frantic knocking. Highness, are you hurt? Open up. Hi, Soy. Welcome in. Open the front doors or they'll break them down, yelled Jatta, tossing the keys to Sanda. As her friends struggled through the corridor with Rufford, Jatta scrambled to the desk. She stuffed the diaries inside. Whirling back, she seized Sanda's books from beyond the study. Sanda's books. From beyond the study came muffled voices and Rudford's whining. She shoved Sanda's books wherever she could find her shelf space. Her heart was thumping as she rushed out of the room, not stopping to lock anything. Sanda was in the king's sitting room, flustered by the captain's interrogation. Guards tramped from room to room, calling Jatta's name. As she entered the sitting room, they caught sight of her and came running. Rufford began snarling. She collapsed, yawning on the sofa. Can't somebody keep that rabid beast quiet? I'm trying to rest. She moaned. Highness, you're unharmed, cried the captain. One guard grabbed Rufford's collar and pulled him from the room. That deranged canine's given me a splitting headache. That deranged canine's giving me a splitting headache, she whined, lying back with one arm draped theatrically across her brow. Highness, we've never known Rufford so agitated. We feared for your safety. And yet, here I am. The captain bowed, as indeed is Lady Crewingburn. With respect, Highness, has she permission to be in the king's private chambers? In possession of his keys? Ah, I was just leaving, offered Sanda. The captain cocked an eyebrow. Leaving? After reading at my bedside. Jatta wiped her arm across her brow, then let it flop all over the sofa where she lay like a tragic heroine. Last night's crisis had left me vexed and fatigued, as you may know. An unreadable expression flickered across Captain Naphadan's face. Indeed, Highness. I was there. Jatta sat up straight, immediately dropping her pretense. This man knew things about her ordeal that she did not. She searched his face, but he endured her scrutiny with a professional blandness. I don't, remember much, she faltered. Naphdeen nodded to his men, who left the room. He turned to Sanda. Stretching out a broad palm, she placed the keys in his hand with a cheeky grin. Sanda, could you please wait for me outside? Said Jatta. I can't tell you much, he said once they were alone. His honest, strong face had relaxed. Naphdeen, How many wolves were there? Highness, I cannot say. You must know. At what point did you arrive? As soon as we heard the prince's cry, there were 20 of us and as many hounds, but the wolves snapped our swords. Your brother defended himself brilliantly, hurling lamps even after sustaining his wounds. Without his fire and our hounds and nets, we could not have hoped to dissuade the cursed creatures. Did you wound any? Aye, Fana. Indeed not, Highness. But we lost 8 good hounds. Will they return tonight? She pressed. Reluctantly, he nodded. Could you capture them then? Highness, our wise king has devised a different strategy for tonight. You'll be safe. Trust him. Blind trust? Still? Her frustration swelled. What sort of an answer is that? Don't treat me like a child, Naphaden. How many wolves? What strategy? What is the cruel fate that threatens and the wicked union? Highness, who dared tell you this? She bit her lip. She exposed too much. Catching her discomfort, his eyes narrowed. He glanced in the direction of the study. She blushed crimson. Naphdine bowed and left the room. You've told me nothing, she blustered, following him to the study door. He tested its handle. It swung open. The withering look he gave his princess was one no palace servant had the right to use. Jatta tried to feign indignation. The weight of her father's disappointment was already pressing on her. In stony silence, he locked the study door as Jatta examined her bracelets. His voice, when he spoke, was surprisingly gentle. Highness, this won't be in my report to the king. Her body flooded with relief. But I beg you, trust your father, and don't betray his trust in you. Thank you, Naphdine, she said humbly. He bowed again. She nodded and left. Sanda was propped against the wall, anxiously kicking it with her heel when Jatta emerged. So, what did he say? Not to go back in the study. How did he figure that? Did you tell him? Lordy, we're in hot soup now. He won't tell father, Sanda. Why not? She demanded. Then shrugged her shoulders with a laugh. Well, that's good news anyway. Can you get the keys tomorrow? Sanda, I don't think... Don't go all limp on me again. You were impressive back there with your rabid beasts and your vexed and fatigued. I feel so guilty. And yet, here I am, pronounced Sanda with a regally pompous flourish. You have a hidden talent for this. What an act. Anyway, we've got to go back. There's something you need to see in that Dartith book. Jatta sighed. She could never match Will's with her hurricane that was her friend. Satisfied that she had consent, Sanda linked their arms. Now, let's visit your delectable brother. Tomorrow, perhaps. Oh. Tomorrow, perhaps. Father said only family today. Sanda shrugged. Then tell King Island you want to sleep in the Queen's chambers tonight. That should give us access. And give the lion a kiss for me. Let us continue. Chapter 5. Jatta found Arthmail propped up on pillows. His heavy chest rose and fell as he slept. Everything in her brother's appearance was heavy, she thought, like a lion, Alice's affectionate nickname for him. His face was a squared jaw, thick eyebrows, and tangled lashes, Anne's skin and sandy blonde hair. His shoulder-length mane spread over the pillows. His eyes, large and green like hers, opened as she watched him. They shared an early supper. His mood had improved. He'd smiled when they ate every selection on her trays and emptied the gravy boats and butterscotch sauce jug too. While attendants fussed about the pharmacist Yemen's ground medicines, she eyed his custard. He managed his usual lopsided weary grin. Where's all this disappearing to, little mouse? Then feed me before mine vanishes too. Oh, sorry. She shrugged. She'd missed lunch. But that wasn't it. She was still famished. Then feed me before mine vanishes too. She plopped herself down by his pillows. He winced in pain. Your Highness must please be more gentle, urged the pharmacist. Sorry, Art. How are you? I'm bored, he said between sips of custard. So let's play the game. 9 phrases. Jatta grinned at his request. You're too old. No. Well, yes, but I insist on a J story, even though it'll be soaked in fairies and fluff. She fought the impulse to shove him for the insult, delighted that he seemed as pleased to see her as she always was to see him. All right, I'll oblige my patient, but then it's your turn. I don't think so, Jay. Stefan and I could never remember 9 phrases, let alone weave them into anything like you can. She grinned broader, her cheeks flushed. Ready, little sister? Let's see what fairy floss your sugary inventiveness can spin from these. I choose poisonous black spider. I choose Hale and dying breath. And envy and crocodile teeth. And ugly grub and He scowled in concentration. He groaned, and Jatta realized with an unpleasant jolt it wasn't the remaining 3 phrases that absorbed him, but his agony. Catching her grimace, he grinned weakly. Don't worry about me, Jay. It comes, then passes. Are you ready? I choose trap and torn entrails. The torn entrails? You're revolting. Delirious, too, because I've only counted 8. All right, a 9th. Something sweet. A butterfly. Though I expect I'll regret it later. Jatta handed the custard bowl to the attendant. She sat still for a moment with her eyes closed, threading together his phrases, weaving in scraps of daydreams and fables till her story formed. She began. There once was a wicked witch whose magical potion made her beautiful to all men. Night long she stirred warty toads, crocodile teeth, and newt eyeballs into her bubbling cauldron. In her sea cave above the thunderous waves she drank that potion. In all the land there remained one woman, only one, whose natural beauty outshone hers, the fair young queen. The envious witch crept into the palace to cast a powerful spell, which shrank and shriveled the queen into an ugly grub. But then, before the witch could destroy her beneath her heel, the grub morphed into a shimmering green butterfly. Oh, the poor king and his children! They were heartbroken by the queen's disappearance, thinking she had deserted them. Jatta paused, imagining the king calling in despair, sweeping through every chamber. Her eyes were luminous. Her stammer had gone. Arthmail nudged his sister to continue. All right, Art. The king and his children never realized, but the butterfly that flitted through their lives was the queen, watching over them as best she could. As years passed, they learned to care for the little butterfly. She never left the children, while they played and ate and grew. And at night, she slept on a miniature silk pillow beside the king. The witch's dark magic also grew with the years, until one day she was as beautiful as the queen, and she returned to the palace. Thinking his wife had come back to them, the king proclaimed a feast. The royal children saw inside her black heart, though. They pleaded with their father to reject her, and he was torn. The furious witch then set a trap. She hid in the children's bowl of sweets a poisonous black spider. The little butterfly fluttered frantically to warn them. How could they understand? Just as the children reached into the bowl, The butterfly queen attacked her enemy and was bitten instead. Her agony was as if her entrails had been torn from her. The poor queen. One last time she appeared before them as their mother. With her dying breath, she promised to watch over them still, to always be in their hearts. Arthmail grunted softly. That's clever, he said, but it's a sad little tale. Not for me, Art. It makes me warm, like a hug. Because the butterfly watched over her family even after she died?
Yeah, understandable. I would also be at the bar if I saw this.
Jatta smiled sheepishly, looking down to fidget with her ring. Arthmail sighed. He nodded to the pharmacist, saying, I'll rest now. His attendants collected their trays and bowed from the room. It's a story about Mother, isn't it? He said gently. Jatta nodded. I don't understand, Jay. How can you miss someone you don't even remember? I miss her bedtime stories. Remember when Seth used to make us sit straight back against our pillows to read the fables she had written? And we played her games, like 9 phrases. I miss her when I watch Sanda with her mother, and sometimes when I've caught Father reading her journals. I want to remember that she loved me, just like she loved you and Sephid and Father. But there's nothing there, Art. She loved you, Jay, he snorted, more than any of us. She glanced up, startled. Something she had said had infuriated him. She didn't know what. She sacrificed everything for you. His jaw clenched. His voice grew hard. And now, it seems, for nothing. Was he blaming her for their mother's death? She stared at his face. She hadn't seen that anger since they'd been little, when she used to follow him and tattle on everything he did. They'd been enemies back then. It's not my fault, she cried. Maybe not, but you're here, he winced in sudden agony. She's gone. She should have just let him take you. Then everything would be all right now. Let who? King Brackensith? Tell me. His wolves want to drag me back to Tartith, don't they? To my cruel fate? Tell me, what is my cruel fate? He glared at her, jaw clenched, tight-lipped. She hated that look. He knew the secret. Arthmail was keeping it from her too. You're so smug, she said. You think I don't matter. Well, maybe he's changed his mind. Maybe it's you his wolves changed his mind. It's you his wolves mauled. Maybe he wants you. And Brackensith doesn't want me, he snapped, his face contorted in pain. It's you he wants, you freak. Her eyes filled with tears. Her father's words flooded back. I cannot bear to tell her the truth. The truth was, she was a freak and belonged to Brackensith. Arthmail was right. If Brackensith had taken her, then her mother would still be here, and her father and brothers would be happy. She didn't deserve to be happy. Or here, with them. Arthmail's words had torn a hole in her, and her own happiness was seeping out. Arthmail shut his eyes again, in pain, against her misery. Lord, Jay, forget it. I'm sorry, all right? He said through gritted teeth. What am I? She crouched on the bed, hugging her knees, smaller and more fragile than ever. Tell me why I'm a freak? He opened his eyes, sighed, then with painful effort patted her shoulder. Listen, I was being a real toad. It was just my nausea talking. Glory, you know I've been shredded to within an inch of my life. You won't tell Father, will you? That I made you cry? She shook her head, managing a quivering smile. Jay, you're not a freak. You are a daydreaming, vague, useless twit, though. She laughed weakly, sniffling back tears. Everything's gonna be fine. You'll get a fresh amulet. He grinned, but it was too bright. You're such a bad liar. His face softened into his favorite crooked smile. So, I admit I don't know that. I'm happy you're not guessing. I'm tired now, Jay. But listen, whatever happens, whatever, you're still my little sister. He closed his eyes and she got up to leave. The door opened and King Island crept to the bed. He looked from the bed to her and sighed heavily. He gravely wiped her tears. What are these for? He whispered. Arthmael's eyes opened and he struggled to sit up. His face crumpled into a grimace of pain. His father felt his forehead. Better, I see, since this morning. I expect to be well enough. Arthmael paused to stifle a groan. Go to next week's festival. The king cast a sideways glance at Jatta. See, you're already well enough to be reducing your sister to tears. It was only... I'm sorry. We're friends again, offered Jatta. It's just as well. But you should remember that there are no stronger bonds than family. They nodded dutifully. It was the lecture they had heard before. Remember, the palace is jittery with rumors. Now is the time when your loyalties will be tested. He fixed them both with a gaze. They nodded again. As for you, Jay, it's almost dark. Shouldn't you be in bed? But the wolves, suddenly the room with its lights and her father and the guards outside seemed safer. She didn't want to leave. Precisely, the wolves. I'm not having you wandering the palace when they come. My chambers aren't ready, though. Tonight you'll sleep in your mother's chambers. Promise this demon shall ensure you drink your sleeping potion. But the wolves, he sighed. Jay, child, go to bed. He bent down, smelling of sweet spice. He cupped her face to his broad, scarred hands and kissed her forehead. Leave the worry to me. And now it is time to get back to our chapter 6. Jatta woke to pounding on the front doors. For one groggy moment, she thought she was back in the study and the guards were breaking them down. Then she remembered she was in her mother's bed. The sun was high in the sky, so she must have slept through the night. And half the morning. Nausea rolled through her belly. She remembered the blue bottle by the bed. 10 drops mixed in honey. It had tasted sweet. That was the last thing she could remember. Till now. Till that terrible banging. Hammering on her head. Churning her stomach. Whoever it was neither had the decency nor fear of the king. She dragged herself out of bed, but her stomach lurched into her throat. Dropping to her knees, she vomited over the tiles. She hauled herself through the corridors and unlocked the door. Santa shoved past. Lordy, Jay, I thought you were dead in here. She did a double check. Lordy me, you half look it. Skin and bones too. Don't you ever eat? Never mind. Why aren't you dressed? We've got work to do. Jatta leaned against the wall, wiping dribble from her chin. That was you breaking down the door, she groaned. You'll have half the palace guards onto us. No worries. I waited till your captain friend went off duty, then told his guards the king sent me. Urgent secret wolf protection business. Urgent secret wolf protection business. Sorry. Certain things give nice vocal stems. You what? Listen, don't worry about it. Did your wolves come back? No. So maybe we should just trust I see King Island left you the keys. Good. Let's get down to it. Sanda grabbed Jatta's keys and dragged her past her mother's chambers. Lordy, what is that stink? That was me. I think the potion's too strong. Listen, Sanda, we don't have the right. Of course we've got the right, growled Sanda, in exasperation. She stopped just outside the study, one hand on her hip, the other dangling the keys in front of Jatta's face. Lordy, you're limped. Do you want to know or not? Don't pretend you don't. Her nausea was fading. Jatta felt a burst of resentment directed not at her friend, but at her father, Stefan, and Arthmael. This was her life, her cruel fate. They were hiding. She took the keys and inserted them into the door. Retrieving the 11-year-old diary from her father's desk seemed easier this time. They squeezed down together in their armchair, bathed in the warm rainbows. Sanda started leafing through the Dardith book. Here it is. She was pointing at an illustration of a monster. Half wolf, half man, bigger than both. stood upright on a wolf's hind legs with broad, muscular, human-like shoulders and a chest and hands that ended in claws. The face was more beast than human. Mangy fur covered their body. The eyes were almost human in shape, though there was nothing of human intelligence in their manic gaze. Jatta glanced at the creature. Her heart stopped cold in her chest. She was a toddler again, paralyzed with fear. This wolf, this thing, was the wolf of her nightmares. Its vicious eyes were alive. They glistened and turned, fixed on her. Its face grew monstrous and broke free off the page. Its lip twisted up, quivering. The wolf snarled for her blood. The room spun. Terror roared in her throat, and she strangled a scream. Jatta slammed the bookshop. Jatta, stop! But the toddler Jatta screamed still. Hoarse, stifled croaks. Jatta, wake up! It's me! Sanda flung her arms around her unseeing friend, clutching her tight. The book thudded to the floor. With all of her will, Jatta fought the thing back to the dark crevice of her mind where it slept. In her friend's grip, the screams faded, the panic too. She slumped, like bones had been ripped out of her. Shocked, Sanda unwrapped her arms to peer close. Lordy, what was that about? It's it. The wolf, Jatta tried to whisper, trembling. What? The wolves that attacked your brother? Jatta stared vacantly. The wolves that attacked your mother. She nodded. You put on quite a performance there, princess. Do you still want me to read this? Jatta nodded and turned her face to the wall, squeezing her eyes shut. Sanda offered a reassuring peck. She hooked a loose strand of Jatta's hair behind her ear. Jatta fought a fragile smile. I'm coping. Sanda leafed through the pages. All right. Well, here's a chapter on wolves. Several chapters, she read. In our 10th century, A.M., the great sorcerer Andro Morgan created a final punishment for our Isles traders. The wolf's curse. All of his curses. This was the most terrible. His wolf continues in human form, except on the nights of the full moon. With the setting sun, he transforms, having a wolf's instinct to hunt and a madman's passion. He kills throughout the night, first devouring his family and all who once loved him. All men detest him and drive him, if they can, from their midst. Even so, many fear wolf's bite more than being devoured for. If King Brackensmith commands it, the victim might also be cursed. Sanda leant her head back against the chair and let out a long, exaggerated whistle. Imagine monsters like that loose in the palace. They all want to eat us and curse us, and drag you back to Dareth. Lordy! Once one of us is infected, she shuddered. Hey, I'm coming with you. I'd rather your fate. But the palace might already be infected? In that moment, Jatta realized others in the palace have known of the wolf curse. Cabinet had growled at her as if she was plague-ridden. Art and I were both wounded, she whispers hoarsely, her skin clammy and cold. I think we're cursed wolves. Sanda shook her head. No, that doesn't count. She turned the pages. Here's how it's done. In his murderous bestial state, the wolf has neither voice nor awareness of to utter the curse. He must stay guarding his victim till the dawn, till he returns to human form. Only the mature wolf has developed such control of his murderous instincts. With the dawn, he must recite the words, immersing his palm in his victim's blood. If the victim survives, he shall also be cursed. See? The surgeon said that Prince Arthmail, the surgeon was Prince Arthmail. Your father was with you, right? You were both safe. But what this doesn't tell us is why you. I'm not sure I can handle more answers now, Jatta said quietly. Sure you can. Sanda was already leafing through the king's 11-year-old diary. In 7 months of his elegant script became messy, like a child that is written by the wrong hand. Doesn't seem like he's written for the day your mother died. No entry for another week. Only a page. 8th of Lunasept, 3018. Today we bid our Rosarilla goodbye. Our procession to Lake Abadan was a bleak misery. I cannot remember such crowds, such weeping. My stout-hearted Stefford helped me light the pyre. Little Art, not yet 7, was inconsolable. I am grateful, in all this, that poor Jay is too young to remember. I burn for my Rosalia, burn with a revenge, but I am powerless. Sorcerer Andrew Morgan's undead protect Dareth, just as his walls of fire protects its long shore. Brackensith takes from the other kings whatever he covets. We have all been powerless to refuse him, and our sorcerer Lord Red stands idly by. Brackensith stole Sundlia's princess Nordane as his bride, and her sister princess Noriwal before her. Last week, their brother King Norison, Last week, their brother King Norinside and I assembled every king and queen in secret to stand united against Dareth. We argued through the night. With the approaching dawn, Brackensith and his wolves appeared in his portal. Brave kings fled. Others of us stayed and battled against his dark magic, but we bear the wounds of swords that tore through molten in our hands. That night, Brackensith chose our little girl for his son. He seized Jay from my Rosalia's arms, and she, wonderful fool, grabbed his own dagger to stab his throat. Oh Lord, would that she hadn't. Would that she aimed truer. My darling Rosalia defied Brackensith and paid with her life, as I may have to, without Lord Red. But now we have his commitment. Brackensith's heir shall not wed my Jay. She is too tender, too sensitive to survive in that dark. Please stop, whispered Jatta. Lordy, you look awful. Listen, though, this says you get to be queen. What's so fate worse than death about that? A big arranged marriage sounds more fun than being eaten or cursed, right? No. I mean, yes. I mean, I'm tired, but you've just slept the morning away. Not that sort of tired, Sanda. All right, you useless lump. But I'm keeping the Dareth book. Make sure you finish this diary page. Jatta returned to her own chambers, dragging open her new iron-bolted reinforced door, and flopped down on her bed. She couldn't bear to read more of her mother's death now, or more painful truths. She told herself, sliding the diary inside a freshly embroidered pillow slip. Life had been so much happier safe inside her cage. But all had been a confection, her father's spun sugary lie. Like fairy floss too, her father's rock was dissolving away. He came to sit with her while she ate her early supper, and she insisted everything was fine. Two, she decided, could play his game. Jatta lay still among her pillows, feigning sleep, tensely listening for familiar sounds. There was Pharmacist Yeeman's cough as he packed away his bag, the woman's hushed whispers, their footsteps across the tiles, the heavy closing of her door, then followed the new and disturbing clatter of the bolts and locks. Only then did she dare open her eyes. Beyond her bars, beyond her garden, clouds grew orange in the darkening sky. Beside her bed lay the blue bottle. She'd protested it made her sick, but Pharmacist Yeeman had insisted on 10 drops in a spoon of honey. He then pretended to swallowing, spitting it instead into her handkerchief. This, she counted with growing resentment towards her father, was the 3rd time she defied him. The potion could wait. She pulled her father's old diary from inside her pillow and sat with it open on the quilts. With long, jagged breaths, she read. Brackensith's heir shall not wed my own Jay. She is too tender, too sensitive to survive that dark isle. In my nightmares, I still see Brackensith pull the blade from his wound. I hear his words as a cold winter. When next you see me, island, you shall be grateful to surrender your daughter. I hear him command his wolves. Kill the mother, curse the child. Though his wolves have cursed her, I shall never let Jay taste human flesh. I shall never surrender my daughter to Dareth. Though his wolves had cursed her, the awful truth thundered in her brain. Please, not me, she mouthed. The diary dropped. She collapsed into the pillows. Her room spun. The wolf was not outside this barred sanctuary, clawing to get in. It was inside this barred prison, clawing to get out. Inside her. She fought to focus, shot a terrified look at the sky, at the white moon rising. Her face tingled, her arms and legs too. Her last desperate thought, her last memory, was reaching for the bottle, for drugged sleep, for oblivion. Too late. Her body was bulging now, flesh stretching and pulling, sharp edges poking from her insides. The agony was like slashing knives. Something sinister was clawing at her innards, scraping and snarling. A vicious beast burst out. Hairy claws slash out, spilling the potion all over the floor. Her furious howl sent chills through the palace. Chapter 7. Arthmil woke up with an awful jolt. It seemed the creature was right by his ear, howling her unearthly song. Jay. Again. Oh Lord. He waited, every muscle tense, the sheets wet with his sweat, her howl as trailed into silence. By this time, 2 nights before, he'd been at her door. He'd burst in, sword in hand. Impetuous dolt. No, that wasn't fair. No one had guessed. Suddenly, something massive crashed against Jatta's walls, sending a mortar crumbling to the floor. He sat bolt upright, pains seared through his slashed chest. Down the corridor came shouts and the pounding of boots. Outside his glass door, his men raced through the gardens with blazing torches. It was eerily graceful sight. The fiery procession. Arthmale could hear Captain Nafadine shouting orders from the ledge above. Seth was outside on his door, shouting too. Jatta howled again, drowning all else out. He eased his leg gingerly out from under the sheets and reached for his sword. As he rose, he leaned on it. He ignored the pain, remembering how she'd plucked his blade from him like she was plucking a blade of grass. He managed a wry grunt, hoping his sword would serve him better as a cane than it had as a weapon. Glass shattered next door. Something had been hurled through the garden doors. Wardrobe, perhaps. He only hoped her bars held. He took his first shaky steps, gasping at the pain shooting through his chest. Nafadine and his father shouted for nets and hounds from the ledge. But Jatta seemed to have lost interest in the garden doors. Boom, boom, boom. Splinters flew as Arthmale shuffled on his sword along the corridor walls. She was battering her bolted door. Stefan was in the corridor, positioning men with long spears. Spears won't stop her, thought Arthmale, scowling. Stefan would need fire. Boom, boom, boom. More guards were racing past him with torches. Arthmale glimpsed a nervous crowd gathering further down, behind a barricade. Beyond them, a family scurried towards the exit. He hobbled past the guards to the room. She'd slashed a hole, but it's 4 bolt doors, one across its bottom, one across its top, a third at waist height, and a 4th at head height. Held fast. Art, what in blazing heralds are you doing out here? Yelled Stefan. Get back to bed. Can't do it, said Arthmale, poking his head through the hole. Can't sleep with this racket. Inside, not a thing was left standing. Dimmed lamps were wickered over Jatta's 4-poster bed lying broken against the wall. The massive wardrobe that had the strength of 24 men to write had been dragged through glass doors, gouging deep tracks in the tiles. It hung at a strange angle against the bars. Gowns and petticoats lay strewn across the route. Beyond the bars, in her rose garden, gathered with blazing torches, Jatta was nowhere to be seen. Ard, get your infantile head back out where it belongs, shouted Stefan. Arthmale ignored him. He looked up at a flicker of movement. There she was, clawing her way upside down among the beams. Che, silly girl, he sighed. Why in glory's name didn't you take your potion? To his shock, she twisted her snout towards the door. We were swiveling forward, and eyes, Jatta's green eyes, looked into his. They glimmered, seeming almost to recognize him. But in the next moment, they grew hostile and narrowed. Jatta snarled, exposing gums. Her teeth jutted out from her chin, too many and too big to fit in. Whatever they were made of, they reflected like black glass, a mouthful of shards. Instinctively, he recoiled. She leapt to the floor and landed on all fours and rose up howling. Her body was immense, easily taller than a bear, but almost human. Mangy black hair was tufted out all over her powerful chest. A mane ran through the length of her spine. Massive muscled arms ended in human hands and deadly claws. Her hind legs were wolf-like. Her head was too. It was a low with its low forehead. The intelligence had gone from Jatta's eyes. Instead, they shone with fury. They flickered into the bars, to the bars and the beams, then back to Arthmail. With a roar, she had lunged at the door. Stefan jerked him back. They toppled together as her massive head burst through the hole. Her teeth snapped shut on Arthmail's nightshirt, shredding it. The veins pounded with terror. She pulled her head back inside the hole as the guards reached to grab at the princess, or the princes. Suddenly, an arm thrust through claws swiping and pain seared Arthmail's thigh. Flaming torches jabbed. Jatta yelped and wrenched her arm back. "Stop!" cried Seth. "Don't hurt her!" Even though it felt like his stitches had torn open, even as he clutched his thigh to staunch the bleeding, tangled there in the corridor with his brother, Arthmail started to laugh. "Glory, Seth! What do I have to do to get some sympathy from you? You can start by not poking your head through her door," he snapped. "What is it with you? A death wish?" Sorry. Did you see? Just for a moment, I thought she recognized me." Steph was staring at the hole. The guards were too. "Keep talking," whispered Steph. Arthmail followed their gaze. He gaped. Jatta was peering through, recognition again flickering through her green eyes. He swallowed hard. "Remember me, Jay? I'm the titbit that got away last time." Her ears flickered. She began a rumbling, uncertain growl. "Keep it soothing," whispered Seth. Arthmail started again, softly, as if chiding a mischievous puppy. "Tut, naughty girl, Jay. Just look at this mess. Just look at your chambers." Her nostrils emerged through the hole, sniffing his scent. "Just look at the mess you've made of me. Yes, I'm patchwork from your needlework class. Naughty, Jay. You're not coming out. Not till you've cleaned up your mess." One of the guards chuckled nervously. Instantly, she burst through. Arm, head, shoulder. The brothers got no warning. No time to disentangle their limbs, to roll away. Claws gouged Cephid's shin, scraping the bone. Even as Cephid yelled, the guards hauled the princes back by their necks. Jatta, frenzied, snarling, drove them against the corridor walls. The spittle sprayed on their faces. "Calm down, Jay, calm down," ordered Arthmail. The spell, though, could not be respun. Her massive shoulders fought to wedge through. Armored plates clacked under her pelt. She howled, pulling back. She tore at the door in frustration, sending splinters flying. Its four bars rattled as if they were as they were almost all that remained. Boots raced through the corridor, the king's own. "Get them to surgery. Get them away from the door," he boomed. Jatta bounded around the chambers. She hurled chests like paper mache and ripped gowns as if they were tissue. She clambered up her wardrobe, her snout wedged through the bars, howling at the moon for deliverance. Guards dragged Stefan up. Arthmail propped himself casually against the wall. "I shall go," Stefan arched an impious eyebrow at Arthmail, "but that jester is leaving with me." "Save your commands for the surgeon," Arthmail said. "This jester's staying for the show." King Island suspiciously eyed the remnants of Arthmail's blood-soaked nightshirt and his seeping stitches. Arthmail shrugged, saunched to his thigh with an inconspicuously pressed palm. "The blood's mostly Stefan's. Listen, father, Jane knows me. Just let me stay a few minutes." The king nodded tightly. "Don't leave the wall. Understand?" The corner grew eerily silent, apart from the torches spluttering and Arthmail's irregular soft calls. He flattened himself against the wall, as if with it was magic that soothed the rabid beast. By his tense face, King Island didn't agree. I don't like this, he muttered. He called to the rose garden. Naftine, what do you see? Not much, came the reply. Torch reflection from the glass. Island scowled and then gestured two guards to approach the door. Each edged either side. Arthmael shuffled along the corridor's far wall and propped himself there, directly opposite Jatta's door. All three peered through, finding no movement along Jatta's wall. A thrill prickled Arthmael's scalp as he searched, imagining eyes that would brighten with recognition. The guards slid down on their haunches to look through the bottom hole. Nothing, Your Majesty, one whispered. No warning came. No one could have seen she was waiting to ambush above the door. She dropped, her feet swung through the center hole, her legs and torso stretched into the corridor. As her hind legs and claws pierced his ribs, Arthmael's body, hind claws. Okay. He was ripped off his feet, hooked, reeled back. His hips slammed against what remained of the door. She dropped him. He crumbled with a thud. His heart thumped painfully against his ribs. Tumult erupted among the men sprang for him. There was no time to recover, to drag himself away. A fractured second, no more, before an arm reached to fish her prize back through the hole. Again, her claws hooked his ribs. He flopped against her single bound to the. He flopped in her single bound to the wall. What happened next was probably lasted only moments. In each ghastly one, he thought he would die. She jerked him to her face, eyes wild with bloodlust. Her lips quivered, pulled back from the jumbled teeth. Her hot breath blew in, as in his gaping mouth. Remember me, little sister? He pleaded, pinned in her grip as her jaws opened. You'll regret this later. His voice broke at the end. Some ghost of uncertainty flickered in her eyes. Then it was gone. Seething hatred returned. Don't do this, Jay. Jay, he whispered, knowing it was pointless. His nausea welled as her jaws gaped impossibly wide, wide enough to enclose his whole head. This'll be quick, he thought, with courage and sadness. Thank you, my lovely Val. Another part of him refused to die. It was all hopeless. It was all a hopeless, hopeful act to reach out behind. His fingers felt the wall. They swept a wide circle. They brushed glass as her jaw wrapped around his skull. He stared into the dark, dripping cave of her mouth, even as the shard teeth closed to puncture his eyes. He ripped the lamp from its wall stand. He smashed the lamp over his sister's snout. The bright orange and yellow flashed outside of his cave. It roared and opened as she tossed him away. Jatta jumped back, shaking her flaming jowl and pounding its fire. Arthmael slammed into a bedpost and fell to the tiles. Dragging himself up by the post, he staggered dizzily to the wall. Then he dropped to his knees. On wobbly legs, Arthmael lurched to the door. She got there first. Torches, too many to count, were thrusting through. Jatta swiped at their flames. Realizing he still held the lamp, Arthmael swung it. He edged closer to the door than she dared. Frustration drove her rabid. She snapped at the flames and swirled to snarl and lunge at the torches. Burning air cooked. It cooked his back. But he knew she'd have him in an instant if he stepped away from the door. Torches crackled. Men were shouting. His father was calling something, but Arthmael's brain was too jumbled. Jatta danced close. Lord, was she growing bolder? She sprang, swiping at his lamp. It flew, spraying fire to smash into a pile of debris. Drawings flashed a light. Lord, yes, bolder. She sprang back from the heap. Purpose had replaced the wildness in her eyes. She half-crouched, poised to launch. Her eyes narrowed, locking on his. In blind faith, he twisted to the door and dived head first. Torches pulled away back through the hole. Many hands grabbed at his arms and yanked him through. He heard Jatta snarl as she threw herself after him, felt her claws scrape his heel. Hands dragged him unceremoniously along the corridor. His chest sagged to the tiles as more stitches tore. He expected her to come bounding at any moment to claim him back. Behind him, behind him, the bolts rattled. Jatta snarled as she howled. Her plaintive song didn't follow him, and he allowed himself to hope. As the guards laid him down and rolled over to look, the corridor was deserted except for his father, white-faced. Arthmail could only guess what watching his own children's mortal combat would have cost him. King Island's furrowed forehead seemed not frightened, merely pitying, as Jatta struggled with one shoulder and one arm through the door. Arthmail understood why. Her howls were frustration. Her armored chest had wedged so that she could move neither in nor out. Arthmail also noticed that the bald, livid flesh on her snout. Sorry, little sister. That may as well scar, he thought. But you and father would have been considerably more sorry if your ugly fangs had crunched down. Mortar crumbled as she battled the door. Arthmail grunted with dark humor. Wonder what might give first. The beam-thick bolts or a section of the wall. His father breathed deeply. Let the air out in a great gust, probably considering the same thing. Guards, we need barricades. Anything that burns. Both ends of this corridor. His voice sounded wearily resigned. And inform Nafdeen to evacuate the palace. Tell people they may return safely with the dawn. Long after Arthmail had gone under the surgeon's needle. Long after the rose garden's torches burned out. The guards listened in dread in the deserted palace. Heraldic stars faded. Night too. Still, Jatta howled, wedged in her door. Dawn light pierced the sky. Jatta yelped as if some tormentor's teeth had pierced her spine. Her legs quivered. They buckled, useless under its haunches, thudded on the bedchamber tiles. Fury drove her to twist and strain, but there was no getting back through her wedge to her attacker. She tore chunks from the door. Her great chest shuddered, then sagged. Arms collapsed. Her massive head drooped in the corridor floor. Snarls lay paralyzed inside her throat. Jatta eyes fought on furiously alone. They glowered uncomprehendingly as her body shrank. Bones and armor plates splintered. They jabbed and poked and tumbled with muscle under her pelt. Her hatred seethed white in the dark miracle pummel of her pelt, back to soft, colored curves. A whisper of wind caught the painted-on white lace at her ankles and lifted it from her skin. It teased the lilac color from her legs and fashioned a gossamer cloth from it, which danced in the wind's breath. All the while, the rest of her nightgowns reformed. Bracelets shaped themselves from the gold ruby-colored skin of her wrists. Red's amulet emerged from her opal skin of her throat and under the delicate chin of her heart-shaped pixie face. Jatta's furious and agonized eyes closed. Alrighty, I need to quickly run to the bathroom, so I'm going to go on our BRB screen and give you a little bit of music, and we will be right back. Jatta woke up soaked in sweat. The nightmare was retreating deep below the throbbing in her head. She lay draped through the door, in a smoky corridor, trampled with blood. Ceiling-high barricades burned. Beyond the guards peered through, their expression a mix of resentment, loathing, and fear. Behind her, metal scraped on the tile. If it was her garden bars opening, they had warped. She eased backwards into her chambers, wincing as she discovered fresh bruises all over her chest. Her father came half running from the garden. Seeing the devastation, seeing his heartache, her anguish welled in her chest, threatening to boil over. Without a word, she let him help her up, breathing in his sweat and smoke of his hair. She didn't ask what happened. He didn't offer her lies. He hugged her, and she clung tight. Her voice, when she spoke, was calm. Who did I hurt? No one. Not really. No more secrets, father. I know what I am. No more secrets. His long, jagged sigh sounded like relief. I've done wrong. I spouted the potion. That's why I transformed. She thought he'd be angry. He deserved to be. And ashamed. And revolted, like the guards. But he just nodded, as if it didn't matter anymore. The potion is for sleeping, child. Only the amulet can stop you from stop your transformations. He released her and gently turned her chin to examine her cheek. She hadn't noticed before, but it stung burning hot. He dabbed on gel from a flat jar, and its burning flared. Sit still, child. This is Zeman's concoction. Lord willing, your face won't scar. Who did I hurt? She repeated. Ah, well, your brothers. Her stomach tightened unpleasantly. Nothing too serious. Don't be uneasy. It was partly Art's own fault, foolish fault. I know what I am. Those 5 words had to be painful to say. Wrapping her mind around their meaning, as she perched on her broken 4-poster bed, was agonizing. Almost impossible. Wolf. Her memories of wolves brought panic surging, slashing claws, tearing flesh, her mother's hoarse, strangled croaks. How could she forgive her own instincts? If she couldn't bear to gaze at the Darthian book, pictures, could she bear to picture herself? Freak, her brother had called her. Cabinet had believed it too, and demanded her surrender her to Dareth. How long till the entire palace learned to despise her, as the Dareth book warned, as she deserved, for what she was. Her muscles started to ache again. She was so hungry. The door scraped open. Jatta glanced anxiously, but it was not her ladies she'd expected, nor Sanda as she hoped. Guards brought food, and she scarfed down 3 trayfuls, cursing this hunger. Then, chambermaids trickled in with buckets. They snorted and groaned at the mess, till, spying her, they tensed. Jatta retreated behind the remnants of her bed's drapes, feeling their eyes flit to her as they worked. She waited in misery for her ladies. Carpenters traipsed in. They bowed abjectly low, then fumbled with pencils to nervously drop rulers as they measured her bed. Her ladies never came. In humiliation, she struggled up, scooped scattered clothes into her arms, and sought refuge in her bathroom. Here was less destruction. The marble bath lay cracked on its side, rose petals, mineral salts, and towels soaked in puddles of water. She dumped her clothes on the bath, fighting back hopeless tears. Never once has she dressed herself. While guards next door heaved the wardrobe from her bars, Jatta scrubbed off her sweat with sodden towels. She dried herself with the remnants of a velvet sleeve. One petticoat was not very tattered. She tied a string on her waist. Her gowns had ripped, but they would have rather sat in the tapestry class naked than call her chambermaids for another, or return among the frightened men. She struggled inside one gown's layers, confused at the assortments of sashes, clips, and buttons. Lacing up the back provided impossible, and she wriggled it around back to front. This arrangement seemed almost practical, although uncomfortably tight across her bust. She laced it with triple knot. Mystified at styling her hair, she instead combed it long and added jeweled clips where she could. She threaded more hair clips through the rips in her skirt. Jatta steeled herself. Chambermaids were sweeping up scraps of her drawings. Men were hammering her bed. As she hobbled back through her chambers, they stopped, like birds on a lawn, ready to take flight. Sanda wasn't in the tapestry room, nor the reading room. Jatta limped towards the south wing, where the Krewingbergs had chambers. Where is Lady Sanda Krewingberg? She asked one of the guards. He shifted nervously. Your Highness, the Baron and his family just left last night for his trip. Jatta felt a gloomy, sinking sensation in her stomach. The Krewingbergs had fled. Perhaps her wolf was too disgusting even for Sanda. But perhaps it was just too much she'd hoped it had left a message. Well, Jatta limped across the corridor to the music room. 2 noble women at their harps gasped and didn't rise. She nodded nonetheless. Jata wandered to the window, fiddling with the drapes, noticing the harps now played badly out of time. She glanced over her shoulder to see the women whispering and glaring at each other. Her impulse was to run, but instead of pretending to drop a clip from her hair, then crouched to clutch along the drape's hem. Her heart gave a little leap. She could feel Sanda's note. Jata squeezed her fingers through the hole in the stitching and drew out a scrap of paper. Scrawled on it were a few hurried lines. Jata, sorry. Parents found the Dareth book while I was visiting your brother. Mother burned the book. Suspicious old cow. Said it's evil. Then father ranted and made me spill about the wolves. But now there's one in your bedchambers, and they're saying it's you. Lordy, how gruesome that. Poor thing. Jata with wolves messing up your mind like they do. Father's not furious now. He's petrified, dragging me off abroad. I'll miss your birthday. What a ruddy mess. Don't want to leave you alone with all this. Take care. Really. Saved what I could. Usual spot. Wish I was there. Jata gave a little groan, aching for her friend. The harps had stopped. She glanced back, catching the woman's looks of disgust. She got up and stumbled out of the room. The guards had been peering in from the corridor, tensed as she approached. Guard, I want to see Baron Kruingbird's chambers. Could you fetch me the housekeeper? The housekeeper came, but the door was already unlocked. Distinctive odor of fire met Jata as soon as she stepped inside. The fireplace burned continuously in the winter, and the smoke permeating their clothes and her hair, but this was summer. The grate was full of ash. Cheese and figs were left half-eaten on the table. Cupboards were empty, the drawers open. Jata hurried to Sanda's bench bed. Under the mattress lay the Dareth book. Its charred covers and page ends crumbled to ash as she touched them. She turned to leave. By the door lay the Baron's cloak, and from beneath it peeped an ebony tiny trinket box. Jata knelt to examine the box. Inside were precious deeds and documents, and under them, Baroness's jewels. They had left in an awful panic to forget these. Jata slipped the book under the documents before gently closing the lid. She would safeguard the Kruingberg's jewels till their return. They would return. She was counting on that. She escaped back to the palace, through the gauntlet of the stairs, back towards her chambers, back to the sanctuary of the dragon fountain in her rose garden. Jata slid noisily past her reinforced oak door. Men were sanding grooves into the marble tiles. Chambermaids sat gossiping on the floor in a half circle, some of them resting their backs against her bed, while some lounging against the walls if their unstitched gems and lace from tattered gowns. Jata limped towards the garden, willing them to not look up. One woman, plump and young, laid down the scissors and held out one of Jata's bodices. Look at them teeth marks, Mrs. P. Jata froze. All eyes glanced up. Jata panicked as she dived behind her bed. Chambermaid was wriggling at her pudgy fingers through the myriad punctures in the bodice. Lordy, I wouldn't care to be inside this, eh? Nor when her royal ruddy wolfness sunk her fangs in. Ha! Scoffed a bony-faced, haggard woman with a flick of her wrist like a queen in court. You squeeze inside? Fat chance of that, Martina. The others chuckled. Martina sucked in her stomach. Still, it seems a little icy. Still sends a little icy shivers down your back, doesn't it? I mean, we are none of us safe. Why, Mrs. P? Didn't your own Mr. P hear tales about how one of them guards got bit? And who was it? Bit her? This place is infested. Mark me words. The woman had stopped their work. Jata pressed her face into the bedpost, cheeks burning, wishing she was anywhere but here. Nah, this place will be clean once she goes, said Mrs. P. Brought up one scrawny finger to her lips, winking. They all huddled conspicuously close. Jata's stomach gave a sick lurch. You all know my Panya is a chambermaid to the ambassador. Miss P. Theatrically whispered, carried away to the carpenters. Well, she overheard his family last night, all in panic, saying Lord Red already fixed the princess's curse. Yeah, long ago. The Dark King wanted her, still does. Miss P nodded significantly. Seems as though Lord Red's changing his mind, though. Changed his mind on the Sorcerer's Pact, too. He wouldn't, cried Martina. Has before. Doesn't care that we're suckling pigs here without an army of real weapons. We don't have. Don't kid yourself. The Dark Isle will be fooling you with swords of the centuries, like we agreed. Them undead have got blasted rods. What'll rip a hole through you. What with firework powder and glass shards down the barrel. Lord Red wants the princess gone, or he'll open our piggy bellies to Brackensith. Poor doomed child, murmured one woman. Martina shuddered. Don't pity her. Pity us poor chewed-up corpses if she stays. The woman huddled even closer, their eyes flittering nervously around as if the wolves might be hiding in ambush. Jatta crushed her forehead into the bedpost, wishing it would swallow her inside. We're safe enough. Miss P looked from face to face, anxious face. We'll wait tight till the Dark King comes for her. Won't be long, eh? Now that Lord Red's letting him, good a riddance to that plague. Everyone's happy, see? Jatta's tears glistened. Everyone except me, she mouthed silently. Everyone except our beloved king, said an elderly chambermaid. Ha! He's got two good sons, eh? Prince Sephid's clever like his father. The lion, too. He's full of charm, such a dear. Excels at riding and swordplay. Always got a smile for his servants. Real tragedy what her wolf did to him, chipped up Martina. There were murmurs in agreement. The princess, though, what's she? Nothing, really. Mrs. P snorted. Vague and useless, timid, no personality. Lord knows why Dark Isle has marked her for such a drab, scared little mouse. But her father will have no choice except to let her go. Oh, and we have some ads coming up soon. I will see if we can... Oh, I don't know if we'll finish this chapter before ads. We'll see how far we can get. And we'll at least try and finish this paragraph section. Yeah, because then that's a movement point. Jatta's anguish rose. Loneliness and shame overwhelmed her. She clapped her hands over her quivering mouth and dropped to her knees. She crawled on her stomach under the bed, sandwiched there between the boards and the tiles. Jatta sobbed, stifled tears. Her chest shook. What was she? A plague by moonlight, a nothing by day. Jatta's tears were spent. She lay cramped, her cheeks cold and wet on the tiles, aching and starving after her dreadful wolf night. The women gossiped on. Exhausted, wrung dry, she slept. When she woke, it was late afternoon, and the chambers were silent. She dragged herself painfully out from under the bed. Fresh lavender had been arranged on her pillows, fresh flowers by her prison bars. She unlocked them and limped out to her enclosed garden. Its paved path and maze, as it rose bushes, converged on the central pond, where a bronze dragon rose from the pool and trickled water from its snout. Eve, hi, my darling. Jatta's reflection in the dragon pond was making faces. It scowled fiercely back at her. Forehead creased, eyes narrowed, lips pressed tightly. Freak creature, it mouthed, as if forcing the ugly truth into her brain. You're vicious, she told it, hating what she saw. Evil like the wolves that killed your mother. Her voice grew hard with disgust. You've attacked twice. They'd better drug you or you'll do it again. You'll kill. Hide away, cursed freak. Jatta snarled at the creature in the pond, her nose crinkling. 2 rows of small teeth snapped shut in pale imitation of the beast's gruesome fangs. Prompted in one blonde wisp to fall over her shoulder. Her reflection ripple. Jatta wound the wet strand back behind her ear. As the ripple stilled, her mouth dropped into open disbelief. Her neck tensed, for there were 2 faces peering into the pond. Beside hers, a familiar and transparent child's reflection smiled sheepishly. Perhaps an apology for startling her, perhaps for being away for so long. Slowly, Jatta turned wary that she might frighten Dragon Girl away, but the imaginary friend of her childhood was there, translucent as frosted glass under the rising moon, of heraldic stars. The 6-year-old was kneeling and leaning on the wall, as Jatta was, with her chin nestled in her hands. Dragon Girl turned her gaze from the pond to her friend. Her face was round, her features flat and sweet, unlike in Altida. Unlike any in Altida. Her almond eyes fixed on Jatta's face, warm and curious as always. Thank you for coming, Jatta whispered in a tentative smile. She stretched down a hand to touch Dragon Girl's cheek, but her finger slipped through its translucent flesh. Quite visible inside, her hand whipped back as she chided herself for hoping. Hadn't she always known Dragon Girl was this way? The apparition got up and turned to the glass doors. The transparent toy wings she wore flapped just in the slightest encouragement from the breeze. She started to fade. No, don't leave, cried Jatta. Not yet. The fading child glanced back. I be near, Jatta. Where? I always be near. Her friend had gone. Jatta's hollow ache returned. She heard his rapid stride, saw his face peering around her doors. Jay, are you out there? Spying her kneeling on the grass, he came to sit on the pond wall. Who are you calling to? No one, father. His eyebrows raised, rebuked her. It hadn't been a lie, though. Dragon Girl, father. To continue. He searched Jatta's face before his brow slowly relaxed. But it was such a daydreaming, childish admission. Why would she make it up? He patted the stone beside him, and she obediently joined him. I've had Nafadine and his men out searching for you. Where have you been? Hiding. People don't want me. They want me in Dareth. With the wolves and undead. Where my wolf belongs. But you belong with us. You and your brothers are worth more to me than Altida. You belong with us. You and your brothers are worth more to me than Altida. Why? I'm a wolf. And a nothing. I don't matter. A nothing? Why would you say such a thing? It's true, though. If it was Art, or Sanda, anybody else, people would care. I want to matter, I really do. But I'm just a drab, scared. Please let me hide. Don't surrender me. Don't let the cabinet make me go. He took her chin in his scarred hand and brought his face down close. No one's sending you anywhere. When Ambassador Sortora returns, cabinet will back down. Soon this whole mess will be forgotten. No, it's Lord Red who's forgotten. Father, if he really cared, he'd never have let Brackensmith come to curse me the first time. That broke our peace. It broke the Sorcerer's Pact. Why didn't Lord Red just smite him dead then? He will. Next time, I have his oath. You can't know. His amulet failed. I know because he sent you Dragon Girl again. She blinked in surprise. Child, how could I tell you before? Father looked at the fountain and sighed as if steeling himself. He smiled down at her, in a seemed effortless exception for the moistness in his eyes. The attack that ended your mother's life, and that left you cursed with gashes down your thigh, scarred you in another, deeper way. I had hoped you would forget, but witnessing your mother's mauling, being tossed into, buffeted between the creatures and they gorged, these things wound you more. You cried for her for 3 days, and then you lapsed into silence. You gave up play. You'd recognize no one except little Art or myself. You stopped eating, slept too much, and wasted away. Demons warned me your body growth was unwanted, but but I feared it was worse. I fear that I'd lose you as well. I begged Lord Red for help. That night, I returned to your nursery, to coax you with sweets, and she was there. Dragon Girl was 3 then, jumping all over your bed, pretending to fly. Those milky, clear, silken wire dragon wings you had mesmerized, and you were propped up on pillows, actually complaining you wanted a turn. Jatta's skin was tingling. I always thought I'd made her up. Surely not, child. When I'd sit on this wall, watching you two clamber over your bronze dragon, you'd inform me you were flying among the stars. Don't tell me the dragon was real, too. No. Just Dragon Girl, your guardian angel, he smiled. Telling you Lord Red remembers you. He works in ways we don't understand. Grateful tears brimmed. She clung to the words as if they were arms reaching under her bed, dragging her out from that cramped, miserable place to hold her tight. She would cope till Red's amulet came. She would face people proudly and win some of them back. She would show everyone, show that chambermaid, show the palace, show Earthmail too, that she was more than a drab, scared little mouse. Chapter 9. Jatta leaned out over the highest balcony for a better view. The festival procession rode through the courtyard, like a carnival with minstrels and flags, toffee apples for the children who ran alongside it. Clattering hooves, music, and holiday laughter floated up from the breeze. Stefan glanced up as he passed under the balcony. He waved a majestic goodbye. A group of Earthmail's friends squinted up, calling something. And she waved back gratefully. One cupped his hands to his mouth. Where's Earthmail? Oh, silly nothing girl. They were wanting Earthmail, not her. Jay, I thought I'd find you up here. The voice close behind her surprised her. Earthmail was limping grumpily along the balcony towards her. Art, they're already leaving. Why aren't you down there? He thumped the stone wall. They think I'm a freak Dareth wolf. His words stung. She opened her mouth to object and saw the disappointment in his eyes. Art, no, that's awful, she said instead. He made some resentful sounding humph. The festival organizers don't admit it, of course. They just say they have no physicians to tend to the royal invalid. His voice took a sarcastic tone. Profuse apologies, Your Royal Highness, but we suggest your health is as yet too delicate. But that's so unfair and ignorant. I mean, even if, and you aren't, because I couldn't, but even if, well, we'll have a fresh amulet before Wolf Moon. She watched him take a deep breath, then a sigh out of frustration. Her brother would never remain angry for long. Listen, Jay, don't rely on that amulet. Sator's delegation still hasn't returned. Father's sending another. Lord Red could be sick. He may have changed his mind, but he remembers me. Listen, your amulet failed and it's up to us. People are terrified of some epidemic. They just need reassuring. That'll stem from the palace desertions. Father's convinced the cabinet, those who are left, to observe me next full moon, and they'll spend our proclamation that I'm normal. We'll need to prove we're taking full precautions with you. Maybe cabinet could watch you sleep then. That shouldn't prove you're too gruesome. Full precautions? Too gruesome? For who? He was trying to be funny. She was so full of sympathy for his festival snub, and he couldn't even pretend to have sympathy for her wolf. Glory, Jay. I didn't mean it like that. He shot her a guilty grin. I know things haven't been easy there. There have been unpleasant rumors. But Father dotes on you. Unpleasant rumors? Rumors I've mauled my ladies, that I ritually devour little children, rumors that I'm not Father's. I'm Brackensith's unnatural spawn. Do you think just because I've stopped crying or hiding or complaining, I don't feel? He stared, confounded at her outburst, then shaking his head. He relaxed into the same self-conscious grin. Sorry, Jay. He leaned forward over the balcony, watching the procession snake through the gates toward the city hall and banking districts. She sighed and leaned out too. The minstrel returned to noisily enjoying an ale in the courtyard. Earthmail's friends were a line of flags winding through the city streets before she spoke again. Lord Red hasn't turned the city. Lord Resin has turned his back on Altida, and he's not letting Bracken Sith near me. Jay, I never said he would. Not exactly. If Bracken Sith does come, I'll escape. It was just a fantasy. She wasn't even sure why she was telling him, except that Santa was gone. He chuckled. I'll fly on dragon wings far, far away. It'll be a quest through the foreign lands for a proper wolf cure. She pointed in the distant ocean. And Bracken Sith will never catch me. He grunted and chuckled louder. He won't need to. That's Dareth you're pointing to, little sister. That's all. Jatta read the Dareth book, or, all that was still legible, bathed in rainbow sunlight in a sturdy armchair while her father worked at his desk. The first and last chapters were so badly charred that Jatta could only guess their meaning. 5 paragraphs remained of one crumbling from the inside cover. Long before our own time was this blessed age of sorcerers, an age of prophecies, of magical tools and spells. Sorcerers unified our languages, guided our inventions, and ended slavery and war and cured diseases. All Aerith's kingdoms prospered. Little's been recorded of the age of the first sorcerer, but before he died, as all mortals must do, he chose an heir. Thus began the long line of sorcerers and sorceresses that ended with our own Andro Morgan. We in the Isle of Dareth learned to curse Andro Morgan, for as he grew old, he grew to fear death, to search for an elixir of eternal life. Indeed, he discovered it and drank such an elixir, but at a terrible price. He became not dead, but neither alive, for he could survive only on the blood of others. This terrible price is paid by all Dareth, as the undead sorcerer waxed more powerful but also waxed evil. Thus, the end of the glorious age of sorcerers. For 3,000 years, his merciless rule has made prisoners of us all. Andro Morgan be finally gone, but for these last 200 years, our Dark King continues his legacy. King Bracken Sith had claimed her to continue the same bleak legacy. She read further. The book's early chapters described grotesque animal hybrids created by Andro Morgan. This fascination was not unique for sorcerers before him had created gargoyles, lizard creatures, and dragons. Yet now did the book describe wolves as animals. Yet nowhere did the book describe wolves as animals, for they did not exist except during the full moon, nor reproduce except by curses. They had no gender, no age, practically no impulse except fury to devour. It was wolves that Darthians feared most. Andro Morgan had intended as such, taking inspiration from the monsters of his people's nightmares. His wolves' jagged, jutting teeth mimicked those of the sharks that had once patrolled Dareth's shores. And unlike his undead's teeth, they were made of obsidian, a black volcanic glass, both useful in its magic and infinitely sharp. The armor plates beneath his wolves' hides mimicked dragon scales. Their instinct for tracking, their hind legs and faces too, were wolves. Wolves had inspired their name. However, the Dark Sorcerer's own contributions was the deadliest, for the hatred that consumed his wolves was his own. In her sun-warmed armchair, Jatta had shuddered, reading this feeling snow-packed in her chest. As Jatta read further, there were other creatures who chilled her almost as much. The undead, these could not reproduce at all, not being alive. And alone, one uncommonly didn't kill unless its victim was ill or a child. Unlike wolves, however, they mostly hunted in pairs. Undead were nobles who drunken Andro Morgan's elixir. They preyed by night, drained Daryl's population of happiness and hope, just as they drained from the blood. Always there would be nobles, ill-aged, fearful death, clamoring for their taste of eternity. Sometimes Jatta's father came to sit in the most armrest beside her, and she'd breathe in her spies. Andrew Morgan was powerful, she said once. Oh, sorry, I think I skipped something. Undead nobles who were drunks who Andrew Morgan who drunk Andrew Morgan's elixir. They prayed by night, draining Dareth's population of happiness and hope that they had drained them of blood. Always there would be nobles, ill, aged, and fearful of death, clamoring for their taste of eternity. Sometimes Jatta's father came to sit on the armrest beside her, and she'd breathe in his spices. Andrew Morgan was powerful, she said once. Oh, I should also stop the music. As great as it is. Whoa. Because of his elixir? Because of how he found a way to exist after death? Oh, that was the father. Because of his elixir. Because he found a way to exist after death? She nodded. By the end, he even stopped needing blood. He brought shame on the sorcerer's tradition, Jay. He was a tyrant. Her father sighed heavily. His wolves and undead terrorized those desperate people, and his wall of fire around the isle held them hostage. His long nights kept their crops meager, and most of them went permanently hungry. Under Brackensith, they still do. Why do you think he died? This book said he simply, oh, that was the father the whole time. Why do you think he died? The book simply said he dissolved away. Why did he stop existing? I don't know, Jay. Maybe someone finally destroyed him. Or maybe his mind, like our bodies, simply grew tired. Just checking. Yes. Okay. The magic show really had nothing to do with... Oh, sorry. Chapter 10. The magic show really had nothing to do with Jatta's birthday. It was, after all, held the night before, a public holiday. But no one except the long-haired, long-buried sorcerer could claim it, so she secretly did. She sat in her ruby-studded velvet gown with her father, Arthmael and Steffed, newly returned from the festival, at their royal table in the great hall. Somewhere at the back of the hall, a flute began to play. Jatta felt a delicious tingle in her spine. A lute followed, and then a drum picked up the beat. A hush fell over the audience. They craned their necks to see the trio of costumed minstrels wove down the aisle to wait beneath the stage in front of a royal table. As a drum roll sounded, all eyes rose to the stage. Red smoke billowed from an earthen urn, and out from its cloud stepped the magician. His layers of robes were spangled with suns and moons. His beard trailed to the ground. The crowd cheered, and he spread both his arms in welcome. Your Majesty, royal princes and princess, he bowed to the front row, great nobles, palace servants. He bowed a broad sweep with his wand to every table, and a sprinkle of loyal servants along the back wall. Rainbow sparks shot like fireworks from his wand. Welcome to our show. Are you prepared for the magic? The hall cheered. For fun? For mayhem? The hall cheered louder. He grinned down the captive faces, flicking his wand to his skull cap. Fireworks shot from it to the ceiling. Purple smoke puffed. The drum sounded again. Out from the hazy halo fluttered 4 pygmy owls, dipping among the tables to gasps and admiration before fluttering back to the roosts on his head. The audience exploded into laughter and applause. And then... it seemed innocent at first. Something heavy thundered under the stage, then clanged along the floor. Jatta wasn't the only one who heard it. Through the applause, she looked down to see a drum rolling towards her table, a minstrel backing away. It was their faces that warned her, staring, aghast. Magic was happening. Real magic. Between her and the minstrel's 2 columns of air were shimmering, condensed into translucent, sparkling arch. People behind her stood, clapping to admire. The magician froze mid-spell. Crowded in and around the portal arch were shifting shapes of men. Applause trailed away. The king staggered up. His chair banged to the floor. Jatta turned in astonishment at the apparition to his stony white face. Hopelessness in his eyes scared her. In that instant, she knew that it was Lord Red had destroyed them. Go, Jay, her father said as he choked the voice she hardly recognized. Run now. This palace can no longer protect you. Her pulse surged, not stopping to think. She clambered onto the table. One shoe snagged in her skirts and she toppled forward off the edge. She fell face first onto the tiles and tasted her lips' blood. The arc was buzzing eerily. She felt its vibrations in her ribs. Beside her shoulders shimmered half-worn boots. She dared not glance up. Kicking off her shoes and gathering up her skirts, she scrambled to her feet and ran. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw others were panicking and pushing forward too. She rushed through the doors as the guards burst in. Blindly, she ran down the corridor. Captain Nafton was a blur, bounding past her towards the hall. She spun around, almost calling his name, not knowing where to go. The hall doors banged shut and she groaned. Inside, people were screaming, feeling sick, aching for her father and brothers. She wiped the blood from her lip and raced back towards her chambers. In the great hall, the last feeble clap died. Wide, confused eyes turned the apparition of King Island. His eyes stared as if people were watching Kingdom in Flames. People started clambering over tables to follow the princess. Shocked, Arthmael struggled to comprehend what he saw. Blue sparks were flickering, radiating from every shifting shape. Up to 30 men crowded in and around the arch and were becoming solid. Such men had never been seen in Altida. Yet he knew them. Broad, grim faces with almond eyes and noses squashed flat. Black plaited hair, tall and lean. Plaitted. A-I-T. I think it's plait like a braid. Like the British word, a plait. So they're saying like the men have braided hair. Yeah, it's a braid. Black plaited hair, tall and lean, a head higher than most Altidians. He'd seen them in Jatta's pictures. Darthian soldiers. And others. Arthmael knew them by the bloodless skins and their black mouths. A thrill of terror shot through his veins. Undead. Island dragged his eyes from the portal to his sons. Go, boys. No. Sepid stood resolute. My place is with you. Go then, Art. Protect your sister. Don't let me down. Arthmael nodded. He leapt on the table, a pain seared through his chest. Cursing his wounds, he eased himself down to the tiles. He hobbled urgently, frightened, clamoring the crowds already at the door. He pressed against its narrow opening. Darthians were bounding towards it. The king's guards waited with swords raised. Several nobles stood ready for battle. Arthmael fought his way through the grappling with the pain in his elbows and shoulders shoved into his wounds. Guards! Nobles! Called King Island above the dinner. Throw down your swords. Arthmael squeezed through. Moments later, the door slammed shut. Throw down your swords, I say. Every weapon, every man, shouted the King Island. The walls echoed and clanged to steel on the stone. All around the hall, faces turned to their king. Brave, incredulous faces. Frightened, half-panicked faces, too. A hush came over the crowd. Those close to the front saw the portal had gone, dissolved back into the air. The Arthian soldiers shoved people to the ground and locked the doors as up on the stage, the granite arch reformed. It buzzed painfully loud this time. People clutched at their necks and fingers, feeling their jewelry vibrate. Return to your tables, called the king. People started to obey. One man screamed in agony, then another. Both dropped red-hot swords to the tiles, grasping their wrists above bloody, blistering hands. Around the hall, discarded weapons glowed red-hot, then white-hot. They melted like wax, burning black shadows on tiles. People shielded their faces from the intense heat. They drew back, huddling. Island had seen melted swords before, 11 years before. Brackensith's portal had all but destroyed fearless kings when they'd refused to lay down their weapons. Now, flanked by Stefan Nafdan, Island turned stonily towards the stage, blue lightning flickering as a lone figure formed inside the arch. Island watched, his breath deep and ragged, seething with hatred. Brackensith's body solidified. He stepped forward. Ooh, nice. Yeah. Brackensith's body solidified. He stepped forward. He seemed hardly changed from 11 years ago. The Dark King looked younger than his 50 years. His hair was less black. His build was more solid than others from the Isle. His face was a blend of races, a legacy of generations' stolen brides. He might have been handsome except for the coldness, but his strangely pale gray eyes. Brackensith surveyed the assembly with an air of authority, as if he himself had gathered them. Eventually, his gaze came to rest on Island. He snorted, his top lip twisting in contempt. Island, you sentimental idiot. You have hidden her. Island glared. His knuckles were white as they leaned on the table. Fetch her now, said Brackensmith. Or damn you, I shall do it myself. Island nodded stiffly to Nafdeen. Majesty, bowed the captain before striding out of the hall. The Dark King watched as a thin, satisfied smile. Your cooperation has saved you, and your wretched sons, much grief, said Brackensith. It'd be a pity for what a pretty little fool you married was not so compliant. You've taken my wife from me, and now you would take my daughter? Tragic Island, my heart bleeds. Brackensith lifted his face to his own men. He will mourn his cursed daughter. Shall I offer him mine? One of the undead snickered. Yes, a swap. One corner of Brackensith's handsome mouth curled nastily. Perhaps I shall leave her for you one day. No doubt you shall warm to the wretched creature. She be unnatural, too. You're a sadistic monster. No, a tragic king. My firstborn, Riz, be a sadistic monster, but not me. I take no pleasure in pain. I be merely ruthless. And you, Island? What be you? Pragmatic, say I, to surrender your daughter this time. Now that her brother be mauled, now that your palace disintegrates, do you agree? Island stared back in defiance. The unpleasant smile faded from Brackensith's face. His eyes narrowed in suspicion. No, Island. I see what kind of king you are. Not pragmatic, not ever clever. You be fatally sentimental. Men, we be betrayed, called Brackensith. We be left waiting while our prize escapes. Search the palace. He leapt from the stage, seizing and overturning the royal table. He struck the king's face with a powerful blow. Island staggered back against his son. Brackensith's voice was icy. I shall leave you vicious, Riz. Understand this kingdom will be ours till she be found. Alrighty, so it looks like today we're going to be leaving off with Jatta escaping down the halls, Captain Nafdeen and Arthmail after her, and the kingdom of Altida is going to be under control of Brackensith. I hope we get to find out more together soon. Thank you everyone for joining me. I appreciate you all here. If anyone is here and wants to chat or talk about, if anyone missed anything and would like a little bit of a recap of what's gone on, I'm more than happy to provide that now, but we will be finishing up here for today's stream, so I'm going to be like slowly winding down. I can hear it in my voice. I have talked quite a bit, so I want to be a bit more careful on that. How is everyone doing now? For those who did stay and listen, thank you so much. I appreciate it. This was really fun. I enjoy it very much. So it reminds me of my theater days. Oh, and we have ads coming up. Might want to end soon. So as not to curse you with more ads.